Hey guys, what's up? It's Schlaw. Coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schlaw. And we're later than I would like. Honestly, I didn't really get out of the house too promptly today, but all things considered, since I didn't get a ton of sleep last night, um, I think we're doing pretty good. Like we're doing okay, you know what I mean? So, can't really complain, honestly. That's kind of where I'm at right now, but I'm going to end up getting there later than I would usually like to. So, that's kind of a shame. You know, because the whole point of me deciding to stay late yesterday was so that I would that was like the whole point of me staying late yesterday, was so that today, like, I would really be able to get there earlier so I could capitalize on the whole leaving early thing. Because you know how, I don't know, I was saying that was basically like, I may have just left early yesterday at that rate. So it kind of defeated the whole purpose of even doing that, because if I knew I was just going to wake up today and it was going to be like a joke, then yeah, like I just, I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. We're on the road. I feel like we honestly may just be here roughly at the same time as yesterday, which is it's kind of frustrating, because like I said, literally did this whole thing yesterday where I'm trying to I'm trying to oh yeah, we won't do it cuz of the whole trying to get here early, cuz for the traffic you really have to get out of there like early, and if I don't do that, it actually increases the traffic like a lot, even if it's just like a 5-minute difference. And we still just ended up blowing it. So it's a little bit discouraging. I didn't really realize it this morning. Truthfully, it's sort of my fault, but here we are. We're a few minutes late, and I hope that we'll get there sooner than yesterday, but I'm looking at the time, and I don't really think that we will. I think we're going to get there basically at the same time as yesterday. Maybe like 1 or 2 minutes sooner. So it completely defeated the whole purpose of, like, yesterday I was like, oh, well, I might as well just wait to give tomorrow a go. It just completely, totally defeated the purpose. Totally defeated the purpose. So, it's, it's just silly. It's like really silly. Now I'm trying to think like what oh yeah, I've been doing this thing where with my 13 mini, since that's my recording phone now, in order to take care of the battery optimally, I try to have it sit right around 50%, so either like high 40s or low 50s, something like that. And then I always tell myself, like, oh, well, when I wake up in the morning, I'll just plop it on the charger. Because if I do that, then, yeah, if in the morning I plop it on the charger, it will end up Um, it'll like give it a bolster, before recording, because obviously once I'm recording, that burns through quite a bit of battery power. So, you have to keep that in mind. Because, so then I would want to elevate it to maybe like 70%, knowing that by the end of the recording and the transcribe, because the transcribing is really what burns the battery. The transcription really uses a lot of. So, yeah. And I keep forgetting to do it. So, like, right now we're recording and it's at 48%. It probably doesn't really matter, but it's just something to get in the habit of doing, because you want it sitting at 50% at all times, as many times as possible. That's really the name of the game. At all times, or as many times as possible. And yeah, it's just like, that's what I try to do, but I keep forgetting to do it. But I do think with my main phones, like my current routine is pretty solid. I don't get it perfect. Like last night, for example, my phone was at 62%, for overnight, but typically I try to put them like at 55%, airplane mode, battery saver on, low power mode on, airplane mode on, and so it sits overnight right at 50%. And that's obviously like really, really good, and I feel very good about doing that. But it does take some skill, but it's like once you get used to it, it's not really that crazy. Like it's just kind of a pattern I do. I mean, even with my watch, it's like a similar thing. I had overcharged it like a little bit yesterday. So right now it's at 50%, but it was probably at about 60 or, low 60s when I went to bed. So ideally for the watch is a little bit harder to gauge. It drains faster, it charges pretty fast. And again, sometimes like I forget it's on the charger and it gets up to like 67% or like 70%, but you still get what I mean. Like I try to make it so overnight it's in like the high 40s and low 50s, because that is the healthiest state for the battery, and it's about prolonged usage. So if you're going to bed in a a best case scenario, you want it to just be sitting at 50% overnight, and that's what I do. So the reason why I'm so like paranoid about it, it's really not battery life, because in terms of battery life, I don't have any issues. Like that's one of the things about the people who are like, they complain about the iPhone Air because of its battery life. I don't even know what you guys need to use a phone for. Like a phone for me is a tool, and probably the most battery draining thing I do with it is recording, which I use a separate phone for recording, so it would be coming from a different battery pool anyway. Or GPT seems to use like a decent amount of battery, but I don't understand, like, why would you be playing a game on a phone? Or YouTube? And YouTube, if you lock the phone, YouTube barely uses any battery. It's only if you leave it open, then like obviously it's rendering the video, and then it uses a lot of battery. But if you have your phone locked, even YouTube, like, that just like sips on battery life. You know what I mean? So people complain about the Air. The Air's not selling well, but it's still just the best phone ever created. It doesn't really come close. And yeah, I'm just so upset that phone turned out to be a failure. Like, people should have been all over that thing, but nobody cares, and I'm so sad about that. So sad about that. But yeah, I've like no idea. It's like this standard is crazy and stupid, where it's just like make a bigger and heavier phone just so you can be negligent about your battery. It's dumb. Like you don't need that much battery life. Like, and I get that some people, maybe if they work like a specific kind of job where they really don't have the ability to charge their phone and they have to be using it, yeah, like there's some argument, and that's why they make those like giant phones with like mega batteries in them for those types of people. But I'm certain the majority of people, it's just like a priorities issue. Like it's just they don't think of it issue. I don't think it has anything to do with like, oh, they actually need a giant battery in there. And it's just really like frustrating. I mean, for a while Apple actually did have relatively small batteries, and then over time they just keep like making them bigger because that's what people want. That's what really sells a phone, is like just dump a bigger battery in it and make it way heavier and making way less sense, and nobody even cares. People like happily do that. I mean, the 17 Pro Max is obviously like the chunkiest one yet, and people are going crazy over it. Even the regular like Pro Max, like one of the biggest reasons people get it is just the battery, which is that shouldn't even be the case. It should be for the CPU, because that's why I got it. It's because of the CPU that I want the Pro Max, and the camera, the telephoto. But I've actually said on here before, I don't even want or need like a triple camera stack. Like that's just not really something I'm interested in. I would really just like the telephoto, but the problem is the Pro's the only one that has that. I do use the ultra wide in rare circumstances, but it's not very often. And again, like if I just had my ideal phone, I do use the zoom very often. So I would just want a two camera phone, but with the telephoto, not with the ultra wide. But they don't make that really. And I don't know, that there's probably some kind of Android phone that does, but I've mentioned before, and I've felt phones, and I finally did, because when I was in Best Buy getting the 5060 Ti, I saw that they had the Galaxy Note. No Note, right? It's just the Galaxy S25 Ultra. They had it on display so I could feel it, and it did feel pretty rigid. It did. So I guess I can give them some kind of credit for that. Like the build quality did seem pretty high, but I still don't think it's as high. Like I don't think that anybody beats Apple with these things, and that is an important thing for me. I've said it like a million times before, but Android, I like it more, but I'm very used to iOS, and iOS has a very good screenshotting utility, and Android, it's kind of clunkier, but it's possible it could be better once I get used to it, you know. But the problem is that there's just not really an Android phone that has the same level of like build quality that Apple does. I have a feeling Apple's phones just have like thicker metal on them and thicker glass and things like that, because it just feels tighter, it feels better. Their haptics still feel better. I don't know why other companies just can't catch up to that, but the iPhone physically, I really do think is just a better quality device, even though its software has a lot of headaches particularly like you can't just plug it into the computer and have access to files like you can on Android. So I've flirted with it over the years. I've said stuff like, I want my next phone to be Android, but then here we are, because yeah, and it's annoying. I mean, I wish I could have like it just one feature of Android, just being able to plug the phone into the computer and having access to the files would be a huge deal for me. But they just they can't do it for some reason. I don't know why they can't do it. I don't know why iOS can't do it. I always assumed if I had a Mac, I would be able to do it. But then when I got a Mac, I couldn't do it. It still couldn't do it. You can't plug a phone into a Mac and just have instant file access. It's still the same nonsense. So I don't know what the problem is with that, but Android, I wish I had Android, but I've never really felt. But again, that Galaxy Note, why do I keep saying Note? It's because I think they were calling it the Note for a while again, but then they went, now they're doing Ultra, but oh my gosh, the S25 Ultra, it did feel pretty rigid, like the build quality was pretty high for it. I will say, like, it was. I can't deny that. It felt very rigid, but I think the finishing, it was still just a little bit not perfect. Like, I don't know. I can just always tell when I feel it that Apple really has like a high-end finish or like coating for the metal, you know? And even in the cases where like the iPhone 7, when it had its aluminum body, that was, I mean, you would think it's relatively untreated. There was still a texture to it that feels like a little bit better than Samsung's texture. I don't really know how to explain it, but I was pleasantly surprised and impressed with that S25 Ultra. I was. I was kind of thinking it was going to be the similar Android story of just like not having a good thing, not having a good build quality, and Apple's just better and all that stuff. But no. But yeah, so I'm just stuck on Apple. I think and I mean, iOS is kind of easier to use, but Android can probably be a little bit faster because you can just like do stuff like disabling animations and things like that, which I wish you could do on iOS, but sadly you can't. So, like I said, it's possible someday I would switch to an Android phone. I don't think it's likely. I think what's more likely is that I would have two phones. I definitely have wanted to do that, so have a second line that has an Android phone. That's one thing I want to do. Like, I'd love from two different brands too, not the same carrier, but obviously it'd be cheaper if I did it from the same carrier. But you get what I'm saying. And I would like to have an Android and an iPhone. At some point, that's the dream, that's the goal. But I'm not really rich, and I don't think I would utilize that enough to where I'm going to do it. So I just don't do it. I just don't, right? That's just the bottom line with this stuff. And yeah, I don't think there's too much else to say about that. What was I getting at here? But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame the build quality. It's just never up to par. And that's what I can't imagine what it could be, because I've had like, I thought the Asus ROG Phone 2 was like a really good build quality. But, I think that in retrospect, but then I realize now that at the time, the iPhone 10 had like the glossy stainless steel rails, which is definitely more premium, you know. So at the time, I thought like the ROG Phone 2, when I had it, I was like, wow, this really feels like a step up. Like and it is. I think Asus does a pretty good job, but I think there must be something about like the thickness of the exterior, and like I don't even know the manufacturing like tightness or something, because there is just like iPhones do just feel more soft. They just do. They just like, I don't know how else to explain that. They definitely just feel like. Again, that Galaxy S25 Ultra really, it felt similarly sturdy. It did. I don't think it's quite as good. And again, in the store feeling, the Air is definitely the best feeling phone, period. And in terms of physical prowess, it should be as well, because it has the new glass and a polished titanium rail. I mean, it really doesn't get much better than that, and nobody even cares. Like, it's just very like silly to me, because that's like the ultimate phone, and nobody even cares. Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Well, I don't even know why I went on this big rant. I was probably going to talk about other things, but I got wrapped up in this that I didn't even know I was going to talk about. It is already Thursday, so this week went by pretty fast and nice. I can't complain. Although I guess they have been. Like, it's not like any of these days have been particularly slow recently. Although there probably was some evidence of stuff being slow on car rides with Schlas. But I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know what I think, actually. Yeah, I really don't know what I was actually going to end up talking about. Oh, I remember now, actually. It's just something I've been kind of wondering for a while. Like, a lot of people obviously think it's stupid or wasteful that I buy the amount of technology that I do. And I understand that. I know it's fairly pollutive or whatever. But at the same time, like, I don't really know. A lot of times, even the few people who would call me out about that, they were people where it's like they did other materialistic things. It wasn't like, I don't know. Like, that's always what happens. It's like whenever somebody fixates on like a minor flaw about me, where it's like, first of all, I'm pretty self-aware. Like, I usually admit it. But what I'm saying is, people will do that. They'll start like complaining to me about like a flaw with me, like, oh yeah, buying a lot of tech, it creates a lot of e-waste. But then that same person, like, if you look at their lifestyle, they're probably wasting food, they're probably cooking in a vanity way, where it's like, with my cooking, it's very much just my ground beef and cheese. It's very like efficient. It's really not material. I mean, I know you can make an argument that meat is kind of like a luxury thing, but if you don't if you don't do that and you think about the way I live and operate, it's the most minimalist diet possible that's still like complete. Like meat and cheese, you know, it doesn't really get much better than meat and cheese when it comes to that kind of a thing. Um, in terms of like, again, if you wanted to do like nutritional completeness, it would probably go red meat and then followed by like a red meat and cheese combo. You're really getting a lot of important vitamins, nutrients, and macros just with that stuff. Like, I know there's debate. I know there's debate about what's truly healthy or what's truly best for longevity, but I think it's really hard to beat. I think red meat and like high quality aged cheese is really giving you a lot of the essentials. And I know I'm definitely healthy, way healthier than the average American, even though, again, there's debate about the whole meat thing, but compared to what most people eat, like when I eat white bread now or pasta, it tastes like sludge and it's like sick. It makes you feel sick. So when they try scaring you about red meat and saturated fat, I don't believe it, because to me, like I think white bread would definitely be like a main problem, or the white pasta. Grains, like that stuff is sickening. That stuff is sickening to consume, and I don't know how I ate it all those years, but it's a shame because I probably would have developed so much better if I had just been eating meat. And now I'm in this like really, like I think a lot of my problems, if I had grown up eating the excessive amount of meat and cheese that I do, I'd probably be like a lot better off mentally and physically. But it just, you were told so much stuff about how like it's not good for you, it's not good for you. I don't know. And at least I'm there now and I feel better now. But like, seriously, I think like what I'm saying has a point to it. It really does. Like there's something there's something to that. Like, I don't know. I think I really, and again, I know the data's mixed on it. Some people argue one way, some people argue another way, but like I know that my brain and stuff, it's just, it's a shame, because I think your nutrition during those years is so important, and it's not as important as an adult. You can't just like regrow bone or like regrow muscle when it was developed. I mean, muscle's probably easier, but it's mainly like the bone, you know. And yeah, it's just such a shame. I was very uneducated nutritionally, and now I'm stuck with it. But I'm sure people probably have it worse. I don't know. At least I'm on a routine now where I'm getting a sufficient amount of protein and fat. But man, it was rough for a long time. But it's still, I think a lot of my mental state, my brain probably would have developed quite a bit differently with the sufficient cholesterol, fat, and protein, and it just would have been, I'm sure, a much better situation. So that it is a bit upsetting to know that there's something you can't really fix, and there's a lot of pain you've went through or would go through. But I feel like a lot of people, it's even more severe than me, you know? So I guess I just have to be grateful for what I got. But seriously, it's like, it's crazy to me, you know, just how much better my life could have been if I had adequate nutrition. Because I couldn't do vegetables. I hated vegetables. Like I was carnivore was like in my blood. And if I would have had this diet, I would have been excessively happy and healthy too. But I just didn't know, and my parents didn't really know, and so I just ate a lot of pasta. I'm telling you, that stuff is like sludge. I actually do agree that like vegetables are easily it would make sense that they're the best carbohydrate. I'm not talking about potatoes or anything like that. I'm talking about like you just getting trace carbs from vegetables. I mean, I still kind of think just based on how it feels, how it digests, and you know the taste and compatibility, how good I feel on carnivore, I still personally think meat is better, but I'm saying compared to the sludge of white bread or like white pasta and how like that, when I eat that now, like I feel sick, man. It does not taste good. It's sick. It tastes horrible to eat white grain, and really even any type of grain or bread, but especially the sludge of white grain. And it's just because when you don't get used to it, you're like, how was I even doing that before? Like now when I have to eat pizza, it's like I have to brace myself to even I have to like brace myself like, oh my gosh, here we go again. That's like what it gets to be like when I have pizza. Um and it wasn't like that before, obviously. You know, for all my life, it was all I knew. But yeah, all that, it's just disgusting. And there's no way that's the thing with the whole fat. I mean, I haven't had my labs done, but you just know based on how you feel. Like, I don't know. I feel better than I've ever felt before. But I'm saying it would make sense. Like, I'm sure if somebody was getting like all their carbs from like, you know, healthy vegetables, that would have to be better than like getting it from bread or what. Like bread just turns to sludge. That's my theory. So, but yeah, I don't know. I really can't see how I would be leaving carnivore. I hope it's the truth because obviously a lot of people say veganism is best for longevity. Well, veganism plus vitamins, because that's a very important distinction. I've also never been able to hold down a vitamin routine. I should be taking some vitamins, but you know, carnivore is also the least vitamin needed of any of them. And but yeah, still like vegan plus vitamins, people typically say best for longevity. And I mean, eventually I would have to switch over to that. Like when I get older, ideally my brain would want to, but I don't know if mentally I would really be willing to switch over from the meat. Like I'm just not sure about that. You know, like the meat it's just so easy to deal with. It's so easy to do. Okay, dude. Dude. That guy was moving way too fast. And he tried to, like, flash me to go, but I just can't believe, like, people do that. Yeah, like, I was, like, I had my turn signal on, and he's coming up behind me fast, and he has his turn signal on. He, like, flashed me a few times. But, like, I was not going in front of that guy. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea. And then another person from behind him just drives by. Like, if somebody has their turn signal on, wouldn't you slow down? Wouldn't you let them go? And then the person that did that wasn't even in the right lane because they're not even going in the exit. It's like so much stuff it just doesn't make any sense, like how these people think. I don't. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm just glad I'm not, because I just refuse to believe. I don't care what they say about the saturated fat. It is so much healthier than the refined carbs. Like it just is. I can't. I refuse. I completely refuse to believe it. Um. But I mean, look. I'm not somebody who's like that stubborn. Like I want to have the right opinions and beliefs, and I've watched, you know, a lot of vegan versus carnivore content, and that's why I'm saying, like, you know, for me in my future, I'm gonna have to be open to change if I really want to, like, I don't know, like, I want to be healthy, but I think for now, while I'm young, it's not really something I have to be too concerned about. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of progress with the research about the topic, especially now, because it's really just becoming like a hot button issue. It hasn't really been, I don't know, like, so there's going to be a lot more research and like data backed up. Like even the idea of venturing into carnivore, it's like a relatively new thing, right? So we don't really have a lot of conclusive data on it anyway. Um, so yeah, it's just like just stuff to keep in mind. I mean, things will likely get better over time and stuff like that. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying my best. I'm trying my best. But anyways, yeah, what else would I be? No, we're actually, yeah, I scratch whatever I said about yesterday. I have a feeling I'm actually making okay time today. Like I have a feeling yesterday was so bad, maybe because I was driving slower on top of being so late. Because today I actually okay, well, a little bit. Never mind. But we'll still end up being, I think, 5 minutes earlier than yesterday, which is, that might not sound like a big difference to you guys, but that is actually a big difference for me because my variation is usually relatively low. So being 5 minutes and potentially I think 6 minutes, or depending. Nah, I might end up only being five. I don't know if I'm gonna. It's gonna be tight to make it 6 minutes earlier, but a 5 minute variation for me is like kind of a lot. That's not because I usually like from a day to day basis, it's probably not usually more than 5 minutes of variation the time I arrive at work. It's probably not. So just like I don't know, interesting to think about. I'm incredibly like consistent. It's just because I'm sure like when I talk about how like I'm late or whatever to other people, they might not even consider it as like being late. You know what I mean? Like to other people, they might be like, "Well, what are you even talking about? Like you're just you know." So it's kind of funny because I do have like these really high standards for myself with this kind of stuff. So ooh, 53 seconds. That was tight. But we made it. So yeah, we did make it 6 minutes earlier than the previous day. So very nice. So it was worth it. It wasn't all for nothing, as I had thought. Wow. Well, that's nice. Very nice. Can't complain. So yeah, I really wonder. I think I have a feeling in addition to being late, I was just so much more like I think I was driving slower. That's the thing, like I don't even know. Because I was eating, I don't even know if I was driving slower or not. You know what like it's I can't even I don't know. I don't know if I was, but that's what it makes me think. Well, I could have been even later yesterday. I don't really remember. I think my light luck was also kind of bad yesterday. Today's was relatively good. That had somewhat of a difference. And I also got pretty lucky today because I basically should have been like a minute. It should have been a 5 minute difference, but it really was more like it was closer to a 5 minute difference than a 6 minute difference. It's just because the clock out doesn't count seconds. It's just like it doesn't pan out that way, you know. But yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, so um. Oh yeah, I was thinking of doing something. What was I thinking of doing? Oh yeah, like getting some of my stuff ready while driving, not kind of while sitting here. Kind of seemed like it could be a more efficient setup, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what is actually like more efficient or not. So, but yeah, we got everything we need. We got in. So I'm proud. I'm proud. I don't know why. I mean, how late could I have been yesterday? I guess I was later yesterday. Like probably the difference I was probably just a few minutes later. You know, I was probably just a few minutes later, but it made all the difference. So that's my assumption. Like I probably just I mean even if I got out of the house like 2 or 3 minutes later and then the driving slightly slower could have made me 2 to 3 minutes later. And then that right there, that's you know, that's already like that's the whole minutes right there. Yeah, I'm kind of fooling around. All right, let's just put everything back. Just put everything back. All right. Well, I think that it has been Schlaw, and now it's time to buy Schlaw. So, see you, Schlaw.